goes on. And so we were so privileged to meet with the Afghan Youth Volunteers, with youngsters who, when they heard that Colonel Ann Wright from the U.S. Army, a retired U.S. diplomat, and Mike Verner, the national president of Veterans for Peace, and Eric Stoner, who is a young peace activist who has his own blog on waging nonviolence, and these other voices for creative nonviolence characters were coming, they decided that they were going to make the best of that time that we had together. I was exhausted. These youngsters, when I'd gone previously, had taken us to their town in Bamyan, one of the most beautiful places in the world, and they had introduced us to their families, and we sat in villages, and it was an entrancing time. And Kabul is not exactly a charming place. It's been traveled, and it's a city that's been war-torn and beaten down. But these youngsters decided